We're just about on time here. It will be 1:30 present.
Okay.
This is this will be a special town hall presentation. It's created the first opportunity that folks have had to take a look at what's been created as the first draft of the operating budget for a 5-year plan and a 10-year projection for 2026. I will tell you that the Finance Committee hasn't had much of a chance to take a look through it. But I do want to commend the folks who put this thing together. Budgets come in all shapes. Sometimes they're superficial. Sometimes they're sub-optimized. At least on the face, this budget shows all the earmarks to being both thoughtful and in the best interest of the residents. Satisfies some issues that we've seen downstream of reserves, and in general, is a great job. So I really appreciate what you folks have done. Okay, just in terms of housekeeping, we're going to leave this meeting pretty well open. If someone has a comment or a question, you're free to ask it, but I would hope that you will wait until the conclusion of each one of the department presentation to ask those questions. If we have residents here who wish to make a comment or ask a question, I'd ask them to identify themselves with their name and their unit and lot number. Okay, on the audience's right, we have the board sitting together with Darren and Terry. And over here on this side, we have the Finance Committee. My name is Ray Adams. I'm the chair of the committee currently. And Jim, why don't you tell people who you are?
Jim Cox, I'm the insurance liaison. And vice chair. And I get paid just as much as Ray.
I'm Christine No, I'm the latest new committee member, and I've only been here on the committee for a couple of months, so I'm going to be a little wet behind the ears, but liking what I'm seeing and glad to be involved.
My name is Bill Mead. I'm a member of the committee. My background is in mental health and nonprofit organizations.
Steve Wiley, a member. I've been awake, I guess, to HOA affairs for about a year now or so, and it's been an eventful year. I'm observing plenty of good stuff. We're heading in the right direction.
Gene Noble, I'm the golf committee liaison for the Finance Committee.
Al Fletcher, member.
Okay, who's
Sean Carterman, Director.
Larry Santora, Director.
Sherry Groupie, Secretary.
Brad Nickham, treasurer.
Janine Grippo, President.
Terry Dempsey, Director of Finance.
And Darren Shaw, COO.
Okay.
Microphone.
I'm going to call this meeting.
Microphone.
Ray.
Ray, you gotta talk in the mic.
I'm going to be calling this meeting to order. If you'll notice on the agenda, there really is no old business. The new business consists of taking a look at what these folks have put together. So, Darren, I'm going to ask you to take it away.
Thanks, Ray. I appreciate that. Darren and I will present this PowerPoint, and obviously we'll be here to address any concerns or answer any questions. So I had a few comments to preface the presentation. So thanks for all being here today. This is an important meeting. Definitely impacts 2026. A couple of quick announcements, if you didn't know. On September 5th, the Arizona Daily Star published its best list of South Fork 2, and we were recognized as Best Master Plan Community, Best Retirement Community, and Best Fine Dining and Preserve in South Fork. And tomorrow at 2 p.m. at Desert View, we'll announce the CIF vote tabulation at that special membership meeting. Even considering Rosen's 222 votes, however they're cast. The spread right now that we can see electronically is about 500 or 600. So it looks like it's a fait complete. We'll announce those results tomorrow officially, and we could use that money moving forward. So that's all good stuff. So let's go ahead and get started. For the benefit of the audience, just run through chronologically the process that we used for this budget. So I think most of us would agree that 2025 has been a year of noticeable improvement in operations, customer service, community projects, and communication. Community is clearly moving in a positive direction. Much of this progress was possible because we had adequate funding in place to do the things that we needed to do. The 2026 budget process began in April when we brought the reserve study in-house, saving about $30,000. Over 100 new items were added to the plan. And a special thanks to Ralph Fletcher, who's been evaluating our work and giving us some really great feedback. The reserve plan is a living document. It's always going to be moving. There's always going to be things shifting and allocations changing and schedules changing. So it's a living document, and it takes a lot of attention to make sure it's managed properly. In June, the association began accepting requests for CapEx items. On July 17th, in a public meeting, all CapEx and reserve projects over $25,000 were reviewed by both the committee and board. Following that review, the Finance Committee made its recommendations to us. The board then issued budget planning guidelines to staff, and to me, the most important of which was limiting the assessment adjustment to 2%. From there, we went to work, not only at the director level, but also at the middle management level. They were included in the process for the first time. I believe it's important for them to understand how the budget process works, how it's built, and what it means. We began with the 2025 reforecast as the baseline. Each department's operating budget and reserve plan were then reviewed line by line with each manager, with Terry and I. The reserve fund model was recalculated and rebuilt, resulting in a stronger outlook for the next 10 years. A proposed 2026 budget was then presented to the Finance Committee and Board. The budget and pro forma we share today represents the collective effort of the entire management team. If I had to put a price on man hours associated with this product, it'd probably be $40,000 to $50,000. There's a lot of work went into it. While there are hundreds of lines in this budget, each has been carefully reviewed in-house and scrutinized. That said, adjustments can still be made. Remember, any money not spent remains with the owners. As of August, the association this year is $871,000 favorable to budget, with some of that surplus augmenting reserves. It stays with the community. As you might imagine, we made a few tweaks to this presentation over the weekend. There are a lot of numbers associated with it, and I distributed a copy to the board and committee about half an hour ago. I've also asked food and beverage and golf directors to join us today just to address any specific questions people may have in their areas, as they are the most dynamic and complex departments that we manage in the company. So today we'll walk through the presentation, and then we'll continue the process at the next budget review meeting scheduled for October 13, 2025. By then, we'll have another month of actual results to review, which may be impactful and may have influence on next year's budget still. One more thing, thanks to Terry Dempsey for all the work he did, working with the managers and coordinating this great deal of information and trying to pull it down into a plan. So appreciate your work, Terry. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Okay, I'm just going to stand up. So in 2026, the key assumptions, 2026 dues increased 2% to $36.70 a year, based on the average of 3,221 homes. I spoke to Robeson the other day. I think Dilldale is about 3293. I think that's the number right now. We're closing on about 25 new homes a year, specifically this year, and they are included in the average of number of homes. We assume 200 homes are resold in 26. The result is $11,821,000 income for dues. We transferred $3.546 million to the reserves, 30% of the annual dues collected, and operations has an $8.274 million of income after that reserve allocation. We increased CIF fees. It's probably a done deal, to 1.5. We transfer the same 100% that's being transferred now to reserves, But I think the plan is to take the other 0.5 and steer that into the capital improvement fund. Inflation's at about 3%, maybe 2.9. FMV subsidy, we budget 251,000, better than the forecast by 2.6%. Golf subsidy is at 217,409, down 3% from the 25 forecast. Wages increase targeted 4% max. I think we came in at 6. Minimum wage increase 2% January 1st from 14.70 to 15, and ops investments at 4%. Interest income 126. In total, all funds interest income for 26 proposed at $477,836,000. So those are the key assumptions as we roll through. So our proposed budget, a community service rate 3,500 across the top, 24, 36, 3670 if everything goes well. There is a percent changes, 6% from 24 to 23, then 2.9, and then 2% for 26. Total community service fees proposed at $11,887,000. Assessments and other income, the operating fund, another $8.6,077,000. And then the community fee service allocation for $3.5 million. Community improvement fees and other capital improvement fund, $1.1 million. Amenity revenue, 9.5. So that's the big picture. Only about a 2% change from last year in terms of the assessment, but good numbers overall. I mean, you'll look at some of those a little later in the presentation. I like pie charts. They tell a story. They give you an idea of the degree of impact that some of these departments and expenses have on the total pie of income. If you go around the pie, starting with golf, 4.5 million is your golf operation. That's what it takes to run 2 golf courses. 19% of the budget, 19.5. 278,000 for fitness. 4 million for restaurants. That's what it costs to have a couple restaurants. Miscellaneous income, not much to count for, but still 230. The CIF, 1.1 million. We allocate 3.5 million to the reserves, 15.4% of that pie. The theater, 2.1 at $500,000. Lifestyle, 67, and the POA assessment, 8,320,000, 36%. Let's go to the next slide. So there are many forecasts. How we think 2026 might turn out. I think it'll turn out better than this, but at this point in the year, this is our best guess. We think restaurants will finish about $250,000 to $250,000 in the red. I think we'll do better. Golf, 217 in the red, where you could use the word subsidized. Theater, 77,700 in the red. Fitness in the black, 72,294. And then lifestyle, 127. So the net loss we see in 2026 is 601,000, and it's much better than the 2025 budget that I forecasted $966,000. We did pretty well against that budgeted number that we're working on this year so far. And then operating expenses. You can see the operating expenses don't increase by much. General and administrative, they go from 2.8 to 2.9. Facilities, 198 million to 1965 million. Actually go down a little bit from the forecast. 1904, our forecast in common area, 1937 million. Patrol forecast 367, slight adjustment to 371. And there are a couple of things we left off the budget that we couldn't put in, and we'll talk about that later. So you can see that percent changes along the bottom there, 11.4 between 23 and 24, 9.8, 24, 25, and then 1.2 this year. Next slide. This is just a visual to show you how the expenses trend. In general admin, you can see that trend on the far left. Facilities, pretty close. Common area, pretty close to last year. And patrol, pretty much the same. Next slide. FTEs. 2026 proposed wages and burden. So FTEs dropped. I think we've been a little bit more efficient with our overtime. to 8 million, 6.7%. And we can talk about that later if anybody has any questions. Total burden, that includes payroll taxes, all that kind of stuff, and the employee benefit program, that's all loaded into burden. So you can see from a budget 25-26, up 6.6%. Okay. Let's talk about golf for a minute. 2026 combined golf course. This is Preserve and Mountain View. We increased combined rounds from 72 to 76.5. We increased combined green fee and membership revenue, 8.2 over 2025 forecast. I think that Mike Harvey, the director of golf, is going to be presenting some fee adjustments to the golf committee to weigh in. I also think that that is going to be on the September board meeting agenda, because the board signs off on adjustments to the golf fees. We're going to drive more social in a couple of events, and we're going to look to bring about more state play packages. That's kind of tough, but there are opportunities out there to do that. 2026 major expenses at Mountain View, $160,000 for cost of goods, marketing $25,000, including a nice machine rental $13,000, so they cost, and June fees estimated at $67,500. Next slide. Major expenses at Preserve, cost of goods, quite a bit less than Mountain View, $86,000, equipment rental $17,400, marketing $25,000, and true fees $67,500. Total compensation for combined golf is $2.3 million. Next time.
Karen?
Yes.
Would it be appropriate, I wanted to ask if there are questions about golf. If someone here in the audience or someone here at the table has a question or a comment about golf. Okay, speed on.
Rolling. All right, food and beverage. Mountain View Bar and Grill, the links, banquets, the Preserve, right? So that's the whole program there. The entire program and all those elements work very well together. Changes to revenue. Modest transparent price alignment where suppliers' costs rose. Program demand, chef dinners, partner brewery features, crack the cake. We just started that event, twilight happy hours at the links, and ticketed events that fit room size. Mix improvements, clear plant-based availability. We've got some great feedback from the introduction of some of our plant-based food and menu items. Wine pairing attachments at the Preserve, standardized banquet beverage ratios. Increased cover count, we have to do that. Average check increases as well as price adjustments. Look, food and beverage is a margin managed business. We're going to manage our food and beverage operations to what the industry standards are. And if we do that, we'll be successful. So our cost of goods, 33%. That's, is that combined? That's combined. 33% combined. I think down here, 31, up at Preserve, 38. Beer and liquor, 25. Wine, 29 to 32%. Those are all right in the pocket. Bulk banquet wine model separate. We do some of that bulk model wine that people buy at some of the events. We don't maintain the margins that we maintain when we sell it in the bar. Purchasing par-level ordering, visible waste logs, monthly college review. We're always excited when we get our cost of goods report. Quarterly inventory price management. We're going to utilize Troon purchasing power as much as we can. And Troon's purchasing power is having an impact on this clubhouse remodel program. Just as a side note, we're working with their design team to pick out furniture for Q1 delivery in 2026. So we'll see how that works out. And then modest transparent price alignment for our suppliers' cost rose. We watch prices and like our chefs do every single day. And those prices have to be managed frequently. We can't just set it and forget it and not make changes for 2 or 3 months. Those changes have to take place when they're needed. Next slide. 2026 major expenses, cost of goods, $1 million, 32%, 38 at Preserve. When I came here a year ago, they were at 48%. That was leaving $1,000 on the table. Washing linen, 72, consumables, 26, bands and performers, everybody likes the entertainment, compensation, food and beverage, 2.6 million a year. That's what it takes to run the operation. 1.8 million, 820 million. Let me back up. Total compensation, 2.6 million, 1.8 million at Mountain View, A20 as reserve. Much smaller team on reserve. Next slide. Departmental recap, lifestyle, theater, and fitness.
4 o'clock,
Any questions?
yeah, quick question on your restaurant. So, the margin managed to,
The margin management issue, as you know, is leverage. Would you say the low-hanging fruit, how much of that has been picked and how much of that do you see ahead of us?
I think we picked the lion's share of the low-hanging fruit, but we got our business model dialed in right now. So we captured everything we could for 6 months. Yeah. I gotta tell you, golf director and food and beverage director are both doing a fabulous job. Lifestyle, theater, and fitness. Again, the goal is to achieve 16% revenue growth over 25 forecasts. So what we found when we went back and we were doing our forecast this year, and looking at how our financial picture looked, it just seemed that with last year's budget development process, it was too easy to budget revenue higher than it should have been. So you'll see in a lot of these budgets that you'll be looking at, we're conservative on revenue. Because my feeling about revenue is, if you budget too high on revenue and you don't get it, you don't get it. If you budget, if you budget not enough for expenses, you can always tighten your belt. So we were conservative on revenue and looked at our reforecast numbers more than we looked at the prior budget year comparison. So 16.3% revenue growth over 25, increasing seminar offering, fairs, paid instructional programs. We do have the farmers market coming back, I think, next month. This just made that announcement today. Replace $600 a month seminar rental loss from Aposado with new engaging and revenue positive programming. Maintain a diverse set of community events and fairs that promote resident engagement. Bankers have a hard time keeping up with revenue projections this year, so we did have to make some adjustments there. Equipment rental, major expenses, $7,900 for tables and movies, supplies, $4,600 for unforeseen needs. And then compensation to run that department, $170,000 annually. In theater, 11.8% revenue growth. Here again, I think revenue in the budget was just over forecast, but we're going to go 11.8 over our reforecast while maintaining cost efficiency. We're going to try and host at least 42 shows this year with an average attendance of 360. That's a big number to get. In peak season, and 300 patrons in the off-peak months. We're going to expand our rental and special event opportunities to diversify revenue streams. So we have them coming in from all different directions. Major expenses, show producer fees, $289,000. Prior years, this was netted into revenue. We changed the way we reported on that so that we broke that out this year. We lost the benefit to track against historical numbers, but we had to break that expense out. So it's out now. We get into 26, we can start our trending and look at our historical numbers starting at 25. Ticketing fees, $20,000. Marketing, $20,000. Credit card fees, $17,700. Compensation to run the theater department, $123,000 a year. Fitness, doing a good job. Fitness department will target a 2% revenue increase over 25 in forecast while maintaining steady expenses. This will be achieved through strategic programming to maximize downtown usage, offering residents preferred classes, and introducing new workshops to engage non-participating members, like online classes. They've been pretty popular. Major expenses, equipment rental or equipment repair and maintenance, $9,300. Supplies, $8,200. And it costs about $322,000 a year to run that fitness department. Down area, facilities and control. Using Upkeep software for facilities. It's a maintenance management system. It's a system that our members can use to report work orders and communicate and get feedback in terms of what status is on different maintenance projects or maintenance items. Supplies, we're going to track product usage and locations, ensuring accurate accountability, reducing over-purchasing. We're already working with one of Troop subsidiaries on getting a better price on some of our paper products. Man hours, minimize time spent locating, producing, tracking, reporting work orders, allowing technicians to complete tasks more efficiently. Preventative maintenance, the FT system does all that. Facility tracking, uploads data, provides insight into facility age, maintenance costs. It's a great tool for your facility manager going again. Major expenses in facilities for 2026, $255,000 for electricity, $112,000 for pool gas, pool chemicals, $61,000. Cleaning services, $177,000. Building and repair and maintenance, $120,000. And it costs about $950,000 for the facilities department on an annual basis. And then common area. For 2026, your director is committed to holding our overall increase no more than 2%. That was tough. That was a tough nut to crack. Larry Wiley, your CAM director, had a lot of good things he wanted to do, but we tried to stay to that 2%. So there were some things we couldn't do in this next year's budget, but we'll do the best to work within that 2%. We're going to reduce the level of vegetation layer by using pre and post emergent. It just makes sense, right? Once you take care of it and you cut it down, or you eat it down like the ghost, we can spray it with pre and post emergent, so we don't have to go back on so many cycles and clean it up. Staff will be redirected to level 5 and 6 areas. Right? We'll have those extra hours. We'll be able to start working more in 5 and 6. We're still playing catch up there. Crack seal and road repair 280 is included in this department. And then landscape improvements, major expenses. We're going to bring the ghost back next year. We put 40 aside of that 102,000. Chemicals, 82,000. Water irrigation, that's potable water, 85,000. Arbor management, tree management, 27,000 too. And it costs you $1.1 million to have this camp crew on an annual basis. Patrol came in pretty much equal to last year. They all struggled. They'll take struggle. Your patrol captain hitting this 2%. Kept coming back to me asking the same questions. I said, Dale, we got 2%. So all non-labor operating expenses assumed only a 2% inflation rate. You did a good job. You got there. Continue to review expenses and variance budgets throughout the year. Scrutinize every cost before incurring them. Major expenses, vehicle repair and maintenance. We drive a lot. Patrol, 8,700. Fuel, 84. Monitoring systems, so our alarm systems, 28,000. It costs $312,000 annually to have your patrol team. And then general admin, as we wrap up on this part of the presentation, this is admin office, HR, IT, marketing, accounting, and the COO's office. So IT expense, $301,000. That's what it costs to run that department. It's a pretty big department. There are a lot of machines all over the community and servers as well. Payroll fees, Velocity, it costs about $77,000 to have our human resources software. Audit tax prep, $42,000. Business insurance, both health insurance on the employee side and CG&O insurance are both forecast to increase 10%. We've reached out to our brokers, and that's what they're telling us. And then compensation, $1.75 billion to run all those departments. Expenses that did not make the cut. You know, we think that we need to conduct this storm drain system inspection. You know, it was inspected in 2016. That work was costed out at about $60,000. And so as far as I can tell, nobody did anything with it except throw it on a shelf. Well, it's outdated now. It's not applicable to what we have out there right now. We think we need to do this, and I think it's very important. Larry Wiley's team has done a good job maintaining what we have, but we still need to have professional civil and hydrologists come out and look at our system to make sure it's functioning properly. Vehicle and traffic reporting programs. Dale Taylor, our patrol captain, gives us a lot of data every month in terms of who's speeding, where they're speeding, we have these devices in all of our vehicles, all of our company vehicles that show people are driving fast and hard braking. We get all that data every month, but he couldn't make the cut on that in his budget, so I put that out to the side. And then a tree cataloging and survey project. We really need to do this. We try to do it in-house. It just doesn't make sense to do it in-house. We need to have a third party come out with their software. There's arborists that just do this as a normal part of their business, and they can do this a lot more cheaper than we can do it. So these are the things that didn't make the cut. Not a great deal of things, considering everything that did make the cut. If there would be a way to get those in, we'd like to figure that out. And if you look at our reserve allocations, in the next 10 years, we're looking at spending more than $55 million. Think about that, 10 years, $55 million in reserve expenses. That's what's allocated. Now, it might be a little more, it might be a little less, but that's a number, and it's a pretty good number. And Mountain View this year, we're going to drop $600,000. That's what's allocated. Now, reserves aren't an expense budget. They're an allocated budget, right? We budget money for these expenses. Sometimes they're higher, sometimes they're lower. Sometimes they go out and look when it's time to do it. We say, you know what? We got another year. Let's push it back a year. So these reserve allocations, like I said earlier, when I was talking about reserves, it's part of a living document. So $600,000 for Mountain View, $247,841 for Desert View, $86 for the preserve. I don't know what the 86 is. I have to go back and look. The preserves are really getting the face of it this summer. The pool, the deck, the building, everything is being renovated right now. And it's really a sexy project. Property site, $591,000, almost 592 roads, big expense, right? We have, I don't know how many miles of roads, but we put a number on it, and we have 45 miles of roads, and it's $1.3 million a mile. You can do the math. Road money adds up fast. Golf, 763, and much of that is for equipment. And then reserve total, 3.496. That's what we have set aside in allocated funds. And once the budget's approved, then we'll get together and set up our entire schedule, and then we manage to that schedule. So reserve fund projections, 2% dues increase in 26, and then we roll 3% out through 34. CIF increase passes, it will. 100% allocated to reserves, 50 to the CIF fund. Operations generates over 500 cash annually. That's going to be infused into the reserves. We're going to allocate it, like I just said, into the reserves from 25 to 34. So just that 500,000 and the SIP money puts us in a much better and beneficial position as we look at over the next 10 years. And I'll let Larry talk about the 10-year reserve projection. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Darren. So this is the reserve projection for the next 10 years. We start off with the 2025 fund. What we anticipate we had this is at January 1 of 2025, 6.9 million. So we'll pick up contributions from the allocation from dues is 3.4 million, which is 30%. And then we're going to pick up, we're going to take $500,000 out of our operating fund. So we're anticipating coming in around $705,000 this year as a profit, and then we'll take $500,000 out of that, and we'll bring that down here to our reserves. And in addition to the CIF fee, it'll be about $648,000, and then our interest income is $249,000. It gets to a dollar amount of $11,806,000 at the end of the year, with the $4.4 million of expenditures we'll have for reserves. At the end of the year, we should have a reserve balance of $7.3 million. Basically, we just run that through every year, and then we get out to the 2029, you're sitting around $13 million in the reserve fund. Keep in mind that this is all dependent on getting a net operating income from operations of $705,000, $858,000, and these rather large numbers, and being able to take this $500,000 a year and move it down into reserves. We'll go to the next slide. So as we see, as we're getting out to the 2031, which is the year of our preserve golf project, we put, can't see it here, but we put a little over $2.2 $3.1 million into ops from that extra $500,000 a year out of operations. And then we've added the SIF money on a continuous basis, and we've added a lot of interest income to that. So as we get to this year, in 2030, we will have reserve balance of $13.6 million, and with $11.5 million being an estimate of what the golf course will cost, plus additional reserve items that we do have to do, that gets us to a bottom line on reserve fund of $6 million. So we'll be able to do the preserve project without doing any crazy increases to dues or hopefully any special assessments, which were planned last year, and it doesn't really account. It doesn't play into effect with this particular projection. These are projections, and as you know, projections will always change based on how we actually do. Okay? Take a question? Yes.
So, like, these numbers are vastly different. These numbers are vastly different than we saw in the last 10. These numbers are vastly different than we saw in the last 10-year projections by millions of dollars. So, how did this happen? Because
So
we were going to have huge assessments last year because we didn't have money like this.
Right.
So where did this money come from?
So well, first of all, it comes from generating, instead of having losses or only a small amount in this net operating income, which is from our operations, we were projecting only like $100, $200, maybe $300,000 a year. So that wasn't allowing us to take this money, it's $500,000, and moving it down into the reserves. So that's the biggest part of it. So when being able to do that, it takes out of contention any type of special assessments or anything. And also we have the extra SIF money that we were putting in here on an annual basis. And now, not only that, we were going to do the project in 2029, now it's 2031, so we picked up extra annual dues and funds and SIF money to be able to help with it. And yes, in interest. Does that make sense?
Well, not really.
Fine.
Because these,
No, it's okay, we gotta explain it.
these are 500,000, 100,000, or these are millions, okay?
Yes.
Last year, we were trying to collect $14 million, and now we have $14 million. So I guess that, I appreciate 500,000 and all of that,
Yeah.
but this is a huge swing in what we saw last year, so I don't, that's why I'm asking.
So, you know, when we started working, started this year, right? When we started working on reserves, we stripped that reserve program and funding plan down to a bare sheet paper. We started looking at just how much revenue we have, how much opportunities we have to generate additional revenue, and then all of our allocations. And I don't know how the numbers were calculated last year, Denise, but when we calculated our numbers, these are the numbers that we see. And these numbers can stand up to scrutiny. I mean, they can.
I'm happy about that. I mean, I'm happy to see that amount. It's just vastly different than last year.
So, the first thing that happened earlier this year is the Finance Committee, working with Terry, got comfortable with the thought that we had too much cash in the operating fund. So we shifted $1 million from the operating fund over to reserves. The 500,000, it adds up after, 8 years, that's $4 million, all right? And the CIF, it adds up. The key point here is execution. What we didn't have in the past was a budget process and a management team in place where we could assume with any reasonableness that we can hit our numbers. What Darren and his team have proven this year is that we can beat last year's budgeted net results by a large margin. And if you look at the operating budget projections year after year after year, they're all in the $700,000 to $1.2 million profit range. And all we're assuming is we're going to use $500,000 of that. So we've got a cushion, all right? Terry has refined the model and made some adjustments which give a clear picture of what the results are. That is a piece of the equation as well. That covers it, okay? Oh, and Sherry just mentioned, we have a lot of money now, so we're getting investment income.
Mike Dunbar, Unit 17, Lot 147. I'm also the president of the Southbrook Tennis Club Board of Directors. So kind of my understanding that there's been a change in the allocation for courts 9, 10, and 11 from November 2024's proposal for the 5-year plan, in which in 2026, courts 9, 10, and 11 were supposed to be completely replaced with post-tension. We were supposed to get, and I got the numbers here from this document, it's $79,011 from the tennis court fences, and the 3 courts to replace, 9, 10, and 11 would be $523,318, and then the windscreens are another $29,545. My question to the board is two-part. Number one, why are we cutting the tennis courts? Because we've been waiting for over 5 years for these courts to be fixed. Okay, these courts are not safe. I've played on all 3 of these courts. There's cracks in them, there's vertical displacement. We know we have a water issue going underneath Court 9 that has to be taken care of. All these things we've been patiently waiting for, and in the budget for 2024, when they proposed this 5-year plan, we were given an allocation in 2026 to do all 3 of those courts, and now it's being pushed to 1 court in 2026, 1 in 27, and 1 in 28. And I want to know, number one, why the tennis courts are being cut, and number 2, why the tennis community wasn't consulted on this before you made the decision to make those cuts.
Mike, I'm going to answer that. Initially, when the CapEx requests were coming through and the numbers and what they were looking at, that was the recommendation. And the Finance Committee reviewed it and thought that's very conservative. Now that we see these numbers at the Thursday Finance Committee meeting, we are going to discuss bringing back all 3 into the 2026 timeframe.
Excellent. That's a great answer. Thank you, Sherry. One last note. I'm sorry, it's getting the members, I think there's a misconception about tennis. So, yes, I represent a club that has 412 members, but I also represent the 5,000 homes that are here in Southbrook who aren't here today to talk about when they use the tennis courts. Because you don't have to be a member of our tennis club to enjoy the tennis courts. It's an amenity just like golf. Okay? And we won't get started with how much money we spend on golf. So my point is that this makes our community look beautiful. Okay? And when people come here to visit their family, visit their friends, and they go out and they see a facility such as our tennis facility, okay, and they see the disrepair that it's in, it sends a message. I'm sorry, it does, okay? Just like any amenity. And if we don't keep those amenities up, it's going to suffer through this community because we're going to lose a lot of people and we're going to not bring any more people in.
I would add to your comments that in the past I've heard reasoning given of deferring it because of funding issues. That doesn't hold water. The information I've received when I've talked to active tennis players here is that why would we want a disruptive environment year after year after year doing 1 court at a time? And then there's also the synergy, cost savings, and doing it at the same time. There is a split on this board on this issue, but I think there's a majority that will want to get it all done in 26. And this is one of very few things that we probably have a disagreement on.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's a couple more budget meetings on the schedule, so as I said in my opening comments, there'll be opportunities to tweak what we present, for sure. Anybody else?
I just want to go back to Denise's question and make one comment that I don't think has gotten its appropriate perch in this discussion, and that is through some very hard work that I wasn't privy to that was going on subliminally and to great effect, we've managed to improve amenities by about $1 million, and that's a go-forward amenity that can support things that back in the previous discussion, we were in trouble. $1 million here, $1 million here, somebody says, that starts to become real money at some point. So we've got all kinds of different contributions to the scenario that weren't previously contemplated. And to this board's credit and our new leadership, those new revenue sources and efficiencies in operations, they're coming in to paint a whole new, improved picture.
Any further questions? You want to adjourn your meeting? Or Ray, you want to adjourn your meeting?
Now you're trying to decide what to do with your time, aren't you? Okay, I'll formally ask if the committee has any comments they'd like to add. Go ahead, Bill.
I've been on this committee for a number of years, and even prior to being on the committee, I attended most of the finance committee meetings when I moved here in 2013. This is the first budget I've seen that looks like it was actually analyzed. In past years, you looked at line item by line item, and they just grabbed the number from the previous year, shoved it in there, and this year, when I look at individual line items, I saw a lot of changes, some up, some down. Whether they're right or wrong, I'm not sure, but what I got out of that is somebody has given some thought process to every single item in this budget. And this is the first year I've seen that in a budget. So I want to congratulate the staff on doing that. I'm sure a lot of hard work went into that. You don't come up with a number without doing some work on it. So I want to thank the staff for the work they've done on that.
Thanks, Doug. It was a key member.
Okay, how about the board? Do we have any unexpressed opinions that you'd like to share?
When I hear good
I know you count on you.
when I hear good news, I just take it and shut up.
Okay, any comments from the guests? Well, we're delighted that you all showed up. I think this is a great presentation. It's a great start to 26. So we'll be trying to take it apart, see if we can't throw some wrenches into the monkey works. And let's hope that it all comes to fruition exactly the way it's portrayed. Thanks very much. This meeting is adjourned.